Welcome to a mind-expanding journey, one that rewrites how we understand history, success, and civilization itself. The video is not about kings, wars, or revolutions. It's about something far more foundational. Why some nations rose to global dominance while others were conquered, colonized, or left behind. And spoiler alert, it's not because some people were smarter or more hardworking or more destined to rule. It's because of something much simpler and much more powerful. Geography, domesticated animals, edible plants, germs. In the book Guns, Germs, and Steel by Jared Diamond, it uncovers the hidden patterns that shape world history, not based on race or culture, but on biology and the brutal logic of environmental law. If you've ever wondered why Europe colonized the Americas, not the other way around, why some societies industrialized while others stayed tribal, or why global inequality still persists today, this video will flip your assumptions upside down. Let's uncover the real origins of power and how they continue to shape our modern world. Let's start with a thought experiment. Picture this: a baby is born in the green valleys of Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq. Another is born in the rugged Andes Mountains of Peru. Both children are healthy. Both are curious, intelligent, full of potential. But history has already made a decision for them. Why? Because the child in Mesopotamia grows up surrounded by wheat, barley, sheep, goats, resources that support permanent villages, then cities, then civilizations. Meanwhile, the child in Peru faces a harsh terrain, fewer domesticable animals, and plants that don't store or spread as easily. This is not about their will to succeed. It's about what the land around them allows. Here's the truth. The people who shaped history did not always win because they were more talented or smarter. They won because they had more to work with. This is one of Jared Diamond's most powerful insights. Geographic luck plays a far bigger role in global inequality than we've ever admitted. The rest of the story, well, it builds from this one unfair starting point. Now, let's dig into the heart of the matter: geography. Imagine trying to build a powerful civilization, but your local crops are weak, your animals can't be tamed, and your land is hard to farm. That's the exact challenge many regions faced. While others got the jackpot, in Eurasia, people had access to wheat and barley, nutrient-dense, easy to store, and perfect for farming. Sheep, goats, cows, and pigs. Those are the animals that could be domesticated, milked, eaten, and used for labor. Meanwhile, in the Amazon and sub-Saharan Africa, the main crops were things like cassava and yams, not ideal for storage, surplus, or scaling up. Almost no animals could be domesticated. Try saddling a zebra or herding a jaguar. It doesn't go well. Here's why that matters. No surplus is equals to no specialization. No specialization is equals to no cities, no writing, no innovation, no government, no military. So even if the people were just as smart and driven, the tools their geography gave them limited how far they could go. This is what we call the geography trap. It locked entire continents into slower progress, not by choice, but by chance. The lesson here: civilization doesn't rise with ideas. It rises with resources. Let's talk animals, but not just in terms of farming. Let's talk about how animals changed the course of human history. Of the 14 large mammals ever domesticated by humans, 13 came from Eurasia. Cows, sheep, goats, horses, even the humble pig. These were not just food. They were civilization accelerators. Here's why animals mattered. Number 1, labor. Oxen pulled plows, speeding up agriculture. Transport. Horses helped humans travel farther, trade faster, and spread ideas. Warfare. Cavalry revolutionized military power. Nutrition. Milk and meat meant stronger populations. Fertilizer. Animal waste boosted crop production. But there's one thing they brought, something invisible and deadly. Germs. Living closely with animals meant Eurasian societies developed immunity to diseases like smallpox, measles, influenza. People in the Americas, Africa, and Oceania did not have this exposure. So when European explorers arrived, they did not just bring weapons, they brought pandemics. Here's the shocking truth. Germs killed more than guns. Entire civilizations collapsed before they even saw a foreign soldier. And it all started with animals. What looked like muscle on the surface was actually biological dominance, and it changed the fate of continents. When we think of conquest, we imagine armies, swords, and ships. But the most powerful invaders in history were ones you couldn't see. They did not ride horses. They did not fire guns. They hitchhiked on humans and wiped out civilizations. Enter the germs. When Europeans arrived in the Americas, they brought smallpox, measles, and influenza. Diseases that had been circulating in Eurasia for centuries. Europeans had built up immunity, but for indigenous peoples in the Americas, it was a biological apocalypse. In some areas, up to 90% of the population died, without a single shot being fired. Towns were emptied, civilizations crumbled. Entire cultures vanished almost overnight. And it was not just the Americas. The same deadly pattern happened across Oceania, parts of Africa, and even remote Pacific islands. Let this sink in. Before any battle began, germs had already won. So, when people ask, why didn't Native Americans colonize Europe? The answer isn't because they lacked intelligence or courage, it's because they lacked immunity. And that immunity came from centuries of living with domesticated animals, an advantage only Eurasia had. This is why Jared Diamond says, quote, history followed different courses because of differences among people's environments, not because of biological differences among peoples themselves. End quote. This was not fate. It was geographic exposure to pathogens, and it decided the amount of empires. Here's a mind-blowing truth. The shape of a continent can determine the shape of its future. No joke, let me explain. Take a globe, look at Eurasia. It stretches east to west. Now look at Africa or the Americas. They stretch north to south. Seems like a geography trivia fact, right? But the difference shaped history. In Eurasia, you can travel thousands of miles without drastic changes in climate. Crops, animals, and ideas could spread quickly across the same latitude. Wheat grown in Turkey could thrive in France. Oxen bred in China could survive in Iran. In Africa and the Americas, moving north or south meant crossing deserts, rainforests, mountain ranges, and wildly different climate zones. A crop that thrived in Mexico would not grow in Peru. A useful tool in one area might never reach another. So what does this mean? It means innovation spreads faster when geography cooperates. And when you can share crops, technologies, and strategies across thousands of miles, you build empires faster. So next time you hear that one continent advanced faster than the another, don't look at genetics, look at geometry. Because latitude gave Eurasia the ultimate leverage. This is why geography is not just background, it's the operating system of history. Now let's challenge one of the most dangerous myths in history. The idea that some civilizations dominated because their people were smarter, stronger, or superior. Jared Diamond blows that myth wide open. The rise of Eurasia did not happen because of genetics. It happened because of geography. Think about it. People in Papua New Guinea, for example, are incredibly resourceful, adaptive, and intelligent. Yet, they did not develop steel weapons, written languages, or massive empires. Why? Because they did not have the environmental ingredients. No animals to domesticate, no nutrient-rich high-yield crops, no east-west axis to share innovation easily. Meanwhile, Eurasia had those advantages in spades, not because its people were better, but because its land was luckier. Here's the key takeaway. History outcomes were not dictated by intellectual ability, but by ecological opportunity. Every society started with roughly equal intelligence, but radically different tools. And over thousands of years, those small environmental advantages compounded. So instead of asking why did not this group conquer the world, we should ask what resources did they have access to? The moment we shift from blaming biology to understanding systems, we gain a clearer and fairer view of how the world came to be. So now you might be wondering, what's the real turning point that separates tribes from empires? It's not bronze, it's not writing, it's not even warfare. It's something way simpler. Surplus food. Once a society can grow more food than it immediately needs, a revolutionary shift begins. People no longer have to hunt and gather every day. They settle into villages. Some can become builders, toolmakers, priests, soldiers, artists, even bureaucrats. This is called specialization. And it's the foundation of every civilization. When farmers produce a surplus, cities rise, governments form, armies organize, trade networks spread, innovation explodes. But you only get surplus if you have high-yield crops like wheat and rice, you have plow animals like oxen, you live in a geography that supports seasonal cycles, and food storage. So if your environment only gives you low-yield root crops or no domesticable animals, you're stuck at subsistence. You survive, but you don't scale. Civilization, it turns out, doesn't begin with ambition. It begins with agriculture. And behind every great empire is something even greater. The right crops in the right soil with the right tools. Let's bring it all together with a truth that's as simple as it is uncomfortable. The winners of history were not always the bravest. Were not always the wisest. They were often the ones who had the best soil, the right climate, and the luckiest geography. We like to believe that power comes purely from effort or genius. But Jared Diamond shows us that environmental luck laid the groundwork long before ambition took root. Remember, crops like wheat and rice created food surpluses. Domesticated animals brought power, transport, and deadly immunity. Geographic shape, east to west versus north to south, decided how quickly ideas spread. Diseases, shaped by animals and trade, decided who lived, who died, and who conquered. So the next time you see a global superpower, ask, what ecological lottery did they win? And when you hear that one culture failed to develop, ask, what tools did geography deny them from the start? This is not to take away from human ingenuity. It's to understand the full picture, so we stop confusing privilege with superiority. In the words of Diamond himself, quote, the seeds of power were planted long before the first empire rose, end quote. So before we judge the outcomes, let's remember, it all starts with the ground we stand on. If this video made you rethink how the world works, if it opened your eyes to how geography, germs, and crops shaped history more than kings and conquerors ever could, then you're exactly the kind of person I made this video for. I break down big ideas from books like Guns, Germs, and Steel, like this one, Sapiens, The Intelligent Investor, Poor Charlie's Almanac, and more, into content that's simple, sharp, and life-changing. So here's how you can stay plugged in. Join my free email newsletter. Just visit kevinumali.com. You'll get weekly insights, tools, and book breakdowns to help you think smarter and live better. Subscribe to this channel if you have not yet. Drop a comment. What's one idea from this video that changed how you see the world? This channel is about building mental wealth, one idea at a time. So if you're on a journey to upgrade your thinking, I'd love to be part of it. Thanks for watching, and remember, the right ideas at the right time can change everything.